Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavajikacharya Ashtotar to Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavajikacharya Ashtotar to Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavanda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On the 7th day of April, 2025 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in Chapter 2, Contents of the Gita Summarized, Text 48, on page 115. You got it? Okay, good. Yoga stuck. Kurukarmani Sangam Tyaktva Dhananjaya Siddhya Siddhyo Samo Bhutva Samatvam Yoga Uchyate. Yogastak Kurukarmani Sangam Tyaktva Dhananjaya Siddhya Siddhyo Samo Bhutva Samatvam yoga uchyate. Yogastakkura karmani. Sangam tyakva dhananjaya. Siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva. Samatvam yoga uchyate. Yogastakkura karmani. Sangam tyakva dhananjaya. Siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva. Samatvam yoga uchyate. David, go ahead. Yogastakkura, that's the lady side. You can see it at the end there. We have other books. Okay. Sangam tyakva dhananjaya. Siddhya siddhyo samodbhutva. Samatvam yoga uchyate. Got it? Page 115. Yoga stuck? Text 48. Yogastakkura karmani. Sangam tyakva dhananjaya. Siddhya siddhyo samodbhutva. Samatvam yoga uchyate. Yogastakkura karmani. Nang tyakva dhananjaya. Siddhya siddhyo samodbhutva. Samatvam yoga uchyate. Ladies. Yogastakkura karmani. Sangam tyakva dhananjaya. Siddhya siddhyo samodbhutva. Samatvam yoga uchyate. Bhakti Chad, you there?
Hare Krishna. I'll let Vijay Krishna go first, though.
Okay, Vijay Krishna, go first.
Yes, Dravida Prabhu. Yogastakkura karmani.
Yogastakkura karmani.
Sangam tyakva dhananjaya.
Sangam tyakva dhananjaya.
Siddhya siddhyo samobhutva.
Siddhya siddhyo samodbhutva.
Samatvam yoga uchyate.
Samadvam yoga uchyate.
Yogastakkura karmani.
Yogastakkura karmani.
Sangam tyakva dhananjaya.
Sangam tyakva dhananjaya.
Siddhya siddhyo samobhutva.
Siddhya siddhyo samodbhutva.
Samatvam yoga uchyate.
Samadvam yoga uchyate. Okay, word by words, I'll read it myself. Yoga stuck, equipoised. Kuru, perform. Karmani, your duties. Sangam, attachment. Tyakva, giving up. Dhananjaya, O Arjun. Siddhi, asidhyo, in success and failure. Samaha, equipoised. Bhutva, becoming. Samatvam, equanimity. Yoga, yoga. Uchyate is called. Translation. Perform your duty equipoised, O Arjun, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga. Purport. Krishna tells Arjuna that he should act in yoga. And what is that yoga? Yoga means to concentrate the mind upon the Supreme by controlling the ever-disturbing senses. And who is the Supreme? The Supreme is the Lord. And because he himself is telling Arjuna to fight, Arjuna has nothing to do with the results of the fight. Gain or victory are Krishna's concern. Arjuna is simply advised to act according to the dictation of Krishna. The following of Krishna's dictation is real yoga. And this is practiced in the process called Krishna consciousness. By Krishna consciousness only can one give up the sense of proprietorship. One has to become the servant of Krishna, or the servant of Krishna. That is the right way to discharge duty in Krishna consciousness, which alone can help one to act in yoga. Arjuna is a Kshatriya, and as such he is participating in the Varnashram Dharma institution. It is said in the Vishnu Purana that in the Varnashram Dharma, the whole aim is to satisfy Vishnu. No one should satisfy himself, as is the rule in the material world, but one should satisfy Krishna. So unless one satisfies Krishna, one cannot correctly observe the principles of Varnashram Dharma. Indirectly, Arjuna was advised to act as Krishna told him. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Salakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So, the second chapter is said to be a summarization of the contents of the Gita. So, we're getting a little karma yoga here, we had Buddha yoga, and all in all, it all comes to bhakti yoga. Because with bhakti yoga, you're doing Buddha yoga and karma yoga and every other kind of yogas, and also meditative yoga. So here Krishna is saying that equipoise, yoga stuck, situated in yoga. To be really, no one knew this word before. At least I remember reading the early editions of the Bhagavad Gita. It was equiposed. That's not a word. It's equipoised. But the whole idea is to be not reacting on a material level, personal level, to the ups and downs of the material energy. You want to do something, and sometimes the situation is not conducive to that activity, and you get upset because your desires are being frustrated. And this is a material consciousness. Everything is being measured by what you want to be comfortable and what you want to do to serve your goals, short-term and long-term. But that's not yoga. And then what that leads to is ultimate frustration. Because sooner or later, you're going to find that time runs out. You can't always satisfy. This is the men's side over here. You understand? Okay. Ladies there. You can sit. Have a seat. So, in order to be satisfied and peaceful in your activity, you need to be acting for Krishna. Now, it's very important to understand that Krishna is always with us. He's the self of ourself, meaning that, as he says in the 14th chapter or 15th chapter, Mamai Vangso Jiva Loka Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, that all living beings, not just human beings, but every quantum of consciousness, which is what we are, we're little particles of pure consciousness, are Krishna's. We belong to Krishna. We're part of Krishna. Mama eva angsha, my angsha. An angsha is very easy to understand. We're right next to the huge Pacific Ocean here. There's, I don't know, billions of trillions of drops of water in there if you measure it. I don't know how many there are. But each drop, if you go there and you get a little cup of water, you bring it back and you analyze it, it'll be the same chemical composition as the whole ocean. So similarly, we are equal to Krishna in quality. We have his qualities in a very minute degree, but still we have those qualities. And as explained, as said in the Vedanta Sutra. Now, sutra means an aphorism, so all of these sutras are very, very short, and they need explanation. So there's many commentaries. But many of them are very simple. Anandamaya Vyasat. This is one of the aphorisms there. So what does it mean? Ananda is bliss. Now how does bliss differ from what we call sense pleasure? The first thing is it doesn't end. It's not just sense gratification as we experience from babyhood comes and goes. You want something, if you're fortunate you get it, But there's a time period, and then the period of enjoyment is over. You can't, if you try to extend it, then it'll become very negative. Like eating, you have some very palatable food, even as prasadam, and it's just delicious. You can, you can taste the devotion that went into it. It's obviously offered is really perfectly produced, Like yesterday, I fasted all day. There was a question finally came. Well, when do we break the fast on Ram Nomi? We call it Ram Nomi, Ram Navami, right? Ram's appearance day. So traditionally, I've understood. I've been dealing with this for years because I helped produce the BBT calendar. Have you ever seen that calendar? We have illustration, and then we have all the dates. Tomorrow, if you consult it today, you'll learn that tomorrow's Ekadashi. So then the question, well, when do all these dates, that have the appearance days, Krishna's appearance day, Radha's appearance day, Nityananda, we fast, but when do you break the fast? And now in the Shringadev's, you definitely break it in the evening. And the whole idea, he appeared in the evening, right? He appeared during dusk, or he killed Hiranyakashipu at dusk because Hiranyakashipu got a benedict. He wouldn't be killed in the day and the night, in the air or the water or the earth. No weapons you would kill, and no being created by you, Brahma. He created all the beings. Will kill me. I'm covered. No one can kill me. So Nrsimhadev came. He's not a man or a beast. He's half and half. You can't say. That's what they say. He's neither a lion nor a man. That means he's half and half. He took him. Where did he take him? Right on the threshold. It's neither inside or outside, right? And he killed him on the lap. That's neither the air, the water, or the earth. And weapons. Hey, nails are not a weapon. Anyway, so how did I get into that? Huh? Oh, the break the fast, right. So Nrsimhadev appeared in the evening. That's the whole point. Not in the day, not in the night. So the fast goes on till evening, right? Krishna appeared, what time? Midnight. That's a tough one. You have to fast till midnight, right? And especially it's tough because the next day is Prabhupada's appearance day. And you don't want to miss Mangalarti or Prabhupada's appearance day. But you got to stay up till 12 o'clock just to take lunch. And then there's a big kirtan, right? So what I do is I skip the kirtan. When everyone is gathering for the midnight kirtan, which is wonderful, Krishna appeared, I'm going in the back there where they serve the prasadam, and I'm looking for Gauranga potatoes. Because you're not supposed to, one of the things is not to eat grains and be into like an Ekadashi. And then we come the next morning, I can get up, even though it's late, I get up for Mangalarti, and it's usually at least 3 of us here. One year there was me and Ladli and one other person, this lady. I remember doing the Tulsi Puja, because we have the Mangalartik, and then we have Tulsi Puja, and then Japa, So Mangalartik, I was leading, and then Tulsi Puja, we need someone having to do the puja. Who's going to do the puja? So there's one other brahmachari there. And I was leading, but Ladli was not so experienced. She comes, So I had to take the stuff around. I had to take the lamp around and the flour. So how am I going to lead with kartals? I'll have no, So I led with we have this nice tambourine there, which you can play one-handed. You just hit it against your chest, with the left hand, and then with the right hand you take it. Anyway. So the point is that when to break for Ram. Now Ram appeared during noon, right? So it should be fast till noon. But the Prabhupada had a morning walk way back in the 70s, and the devotees said, well, when do we break the fast? When for this one, this one, this one? And for Ramchandra, he definitely said, fast till sunset, fast till sunset. So that's what has been on the calendar. But then I read, there was a whole essay done, there's something called the Shastra Advisory Committee, yeah. And they study and they answer questions, well, when should we break it? And the problem was that Prabhupada himself, wherever he was when Ram, he would fast only till noon. So by his example, he's doing that, and of course everyone else at that time would fast till noon. So I wasn't ready to break my habit, 30, 40, 50 years of fasting until evening. So I did that, literally, just with water. I had some water. And we had a big kirtan, which we usually don't have. We went out on the street, and I was one of the leaders, so I was exhausted. Came back, no one picked up the drum, so I led the kirtan, the big kirtan here. And I was, feeling a little faint, a little weak, Sat down for the lecture finally. I had some prasadam. So anyway, back to the verse here. So what is he saying? Yoga stuck kuda karmani, that the whole idea in bhakti is to take your cues from what to act from Krishna. Is that anandamaya abhyasat. So he's always full of bliss. Why not? If you were God, wouldn't you always be full of bliss? Well, let me have a little misery too, you know. No, always bliss. So that's our nature. We have his qualities to a minute degree. So in our natural state, we're always blissful. And why aren't we always blissful now? Because we've covered over that relationship with Krishna. We're not just acting on his desires, which is what bhakti means, but we've got our separate desires. We wanted to be separate. It's literally, this verse I quote, is very graphic. Some of you may know it. Bhayam dvidiya banabeshi daksad isha dapetasi viparhiyo asmriti. So this is the origin of fear. Because material life, sooner or later, it becomes fearful. If nothing else, you may live a charmed life, but eventually when it comes dying, you know, you're getting sick and everything, and it's fearful. You don't know, you know, on a material level. So that fear, the origin is because taking the description that we get from the acharyas and from the shastra, that we were in the spiritual world, that we were connected to Krishna and blissful, but somehow or other, and it's right in this verse, Bhayam dvidiya. Dvidiya means the dualities of this world. This is the world of duality, good and bad, hot and cold, old and young, and things like that. You become absorbed in that. Rather than to be absorbed in the service to Krishna in the spiritual world and blissful, we wanted to try to imitate Krishna. We wanted to try to be the ultimate enjoyer and controller, you see. But that's not our constitutional position. So this whole material world is arranged for us to play that charade, to become bewildered by Maya and forgetfulness. So literally the second line says, Isha. Isha is the Lord. Apetasi means turning away from. Sometimes they say vimukha, turning your face away from the Lord and becoming absorbed in this world. And what happens? You forget. If we didn't forget Krishna and our loving relationship with him, then we couldn't really enjoy in this world. You see? We have to forget. So he provides us that forgetfulness. He arranged that. Although he stays with us as super soul eternally. He's always there in the heart. So what happens when we become absorbed? So then we're absorbed in these dualities. So it says, Ishata Petase Viparyayo. Everything become reversed. Instead of being naturally the servant, you see, of the Lord, we try to become artificially the master of things in this world. And that bewilderment can last for ages, because we become covered, and it's described very graphically in the 15th chapter. How do we keep getting different bodies? How does reincarnation work? Well, it begins with understanding who we are. We're spirit, irreducible. In this whole chapter, there's a whole section. Cannot be, certainly is not killed. When the body dies, the soul doesn't die, you see. And it cannot be harmed by any weapon or anything. We are irreducible particles of spirit. So, but we're covered by two bodies. The gross body, which we're all familiar with, and we're familiar with the subtle body too, though we may not call it that. The mind, the intelligence, and the ego. Now, when the gross body eventually dies, and it's just a complicated machine, it's an incredible machine, but like all machines, eventually it wears out. Something, so the demise happens. What happens? The subtle body does not die. The mind, intelligence, and ego. And all of the things that we've done in the world, with the likes, the dislikes, the fears and things, is recorded there. There's a memory, although we may not remember it consciously, it's in there. And so all of that, plus our karma, the quality of our work, which is taken account by higher powers, super soul, of course, but even the demigods are involved. That will determine what our next birth is. If we've acted just like animals, we basically, we're absorbed in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, and then we can become animals. Those are also the destination. I get so many lessons from that walk. I take a walk every morning, like a morning walk, Prabhupada, It's up the hill here, chant japa. So it's pretty early. It's 6:30, 6:45, 7. So there's people out there walking the dogs. I saw a lady walking 5 dogs. Now, I didn't talk to her, but I realized she's a professional dog walker. You know, people do that. They hire people, isn't it? They were big dogs, little dogs, you know. And she wasn't really, you can see she wasn't really into the dogs so much, just trying to control them so she could go. So, but you know, whatever, they're absorbed in the dog, serving the needs of the dog. And there's, let's face it, there's a real affection there between the master and the dog. So what are you going to think of when you're leaving? Oh my God, I'm dying now. How am I going to feed my dog? You know, you're thinking of that dog. Then you can become a dog. That dog has a spirit, just a spirit soul, just like we do. But then the consciousness is so much more covered than human life. Human life is a rare gift. There's only, now they say 8 billion human beings, you know, on the earth. I remember when I was a kid, we hit 2 billion, 3 billion, 4 billion. All right. But, you know, how many human beings are really interested in this kind of thing? Even the spiritual life in general, you know, it's a very materialistic age. But still, human life is this rare juncture. Why? Because we have the brain power to understand the philosophy. And as will be made very clear in the remainder of this chapter, to control, and the third chapter, the end of the third chapter, control the lower self by the higher self. What is the higher self? The spirit to begin with, and the intelligence. When the intelligence is purified by understanding this knowledge and practicing it, as soon as you practice it, Krishna says, oh, someone's trying to get close to me a little bit, then I'll give him from within the heart, give him inspiration. That comes up in the 10th chapter. It's so encouraging. There's 4 verses. Just like in the Bhagavatam, there's 4 essential verses, Chatur Shloki Bhagavatam. And the whole thing is built on that. So in the Bhagavad Gita, there are all these 4 essential verses in the 10th chapter. And Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo, mattak sarvam pravartati. Iti mudva bhajante mam buddha bhava samandada. By the way, many of you may not know David. David just came back from India. He was at the Kumbh Mela. How many millions? 40 million? 50 million? 500. No way, 500 million. Come on, that's some money. Oh, people coming and going. That 60 million people at that festival. And he memorized the names of all of them. No, I'm just kidding. But that, you know, you hear about this Kumbh Mela. It's amazing, you know. So he got to bathe. Did you bathe at the right time and everything?
I did 2 out of the 3. There was one ISKCON
okay.
where there was a stampede.
Yeah.
So our ISKCON camp wasn't able to go to the
And, you know, I mean, kind of...
we went to the Ganga and stuff.
It's kind of sobering. This didn't happen. I mean, you know, I hear the news, read the news about these when they happen. But there was, he says, a stampede. People were sleeping near the Ganges, and you heard, you know, people were killed. There's so many people trying to bathe at just the right time, you know, to get liberation. Right? Anyway, it's good. Welcome back, David. Sincere soul. So anyway, Krishna is describing, so the state of our consciousness at that critical moment of death is everything. In chapter 8, it becomes very clear. It says, Yang yam vapi smarang bhavam jajat jante kalevadam tam tame vaiti kondeya sadatad bhava bhavita. Whatever is the dominant thought when you leave, yam, when they repeat like this, whatever you think of. Smarang, when you remember, what is the most prominent thought? Smarang bhavam Chajat jante kalevad, when you give up the body, the end time. Finally, the soul gives up the body. You don't die. Should I do it? A little poem? Okay. Some of you haven't heard my little poem I made. Every body dies. Not everybody, but every body dies. So every single body dies. Every body dies, nobody dies. Wake up, and open your eyes. You're not that body, you're a pure spirit soul. Chant the holy name and attain life's goal. The Hare Krishna movement in a nutshell. But everyone is, you know, identified with the body. That all the lower animals do that, you know. So what happens? So we lead a certain life, and without this philosophy, without having association, whatever's going on, you know, whatever's prominent, and somehow you go through life. And you have a certain number of things that you desire. Just like I like to give the example of advertisers. Their whole point is that in the few seconds or maybe a minute that they have of your attention, they try to grab it, to implant a desire for their product, you know. Then, of course, you go back to the movie or whatever you're watching, and you forget that, but it's implanted in there. So the next time you need a loaf of bread or a car or whatever it is, you think, you know, I think I'll buy that one. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. You may even forget why you're thinking of it. So that they used to have, I don't know if they do it, I think it became illegal, but back in the 50s, 60s, movies were, I think, a bigger thing than they are now. People would go to the movie theater, and they would have outside. I remember as a kid, they had, you know, they could buy popcorn or other things, you know. So they would put subliminal ads for like 1 or 2 seconds. They found out that they can plant in things to the subconscious, and so the movie's going on, and you don't even realize it, but it came on. Buy Coke, you know, and then it would go back to the movie. And it would play that subliminal, and I said, you know, I think I'm feeling kind of thirsty. I think I'll go get a Coke. And they found that it worked. So you can imagine all of the things that you're conscious of during the day, if you're not trying to be conscious of Krishna. And they have an effect. The things that especially attract you or especially frighten you or, you know, anything extreme. And that goes into your subconscious. And that goes into your what's going to come out when you leave the body. So then the state of your mind and the reactions, good or bad, to your karma, that determines your next birth, and there's higher powers that are determining it. So naturally, actually, every living entity eventually achieves a human life. Nobody's damned to hell forever, you know, although there is a hell, but it's limited. And human life is special. I like this verse, you've heard it a million times. Labdva sudurlabhamidam bahusam bhavante manushyam artadam anityam apiya dira. Turnam yateta napateda namityavat nikshayasaya vishaya kalusarvatakshyat. So this is a call to all human beings, you know. I think Krishna speaks it in the 11th canto, in to Uddhava. Labdva sudurlabha, you have attained the extremely rare human form of life. After many births, bahusam bhavante manushyam, same word, manusham, man, manusham. What's the special? Artadam. It can give the ultimate value to life. You can get the ultimate good, you see, which is defined later as nikshayasa. Shreyasa means something that's very useful, and nikshayasa is the ultimate good thing. But like all forms, anityam, it's temporary. Human life, like every form of life, is temporary, obviously. So one has to be dhira. This is a key word that comes up early in this chapter, where Krishna says, Dehinosmin yada dehe komaram yovarang jada tata dehadam prabdi dhiras tattva namuyati. Dhiraha is the noun. You know, dhira means one has to be very sober-minded and thoughtful. You know, not just going with whatever's happening at the time. So if one is thoughtful, then he won't be bewildered by death of another. You know, I remember when my father died. This was back in '87, and I was a devotee, and I visited my mother, of course, and I spoke just to explain this little thing about this verse, basically, that Dad is not dead. He's not gone. He still exists. You know, in taking another body, and it was just very comforting to her to understand. Oh, he's in another, you know, situation. And because I was a son, and he was always thinking about it, he never really reconciled that I was a Hare Krishna. So he'd always, when are you coming out of that thing? Whenever I saw you, it was like 20 years later. When are you coming out of it? But he was thinking Hare Krishna. Well, my son, yeah, it's true. He's a Hare Krishna. Just saying Hare Krishna is so powerful. So we should always remember that. We really love our parents. We should become devotees, you know, so they'll be connected that way. So anyway, that's how it works. And if we can develop our consciousness in such a way that we're thinking more and more of Krishna, because we are part and parcel of Krishna, to really understand our eternal body, our eternal identity, we need to establish that relationship with Krishna on the basis of service. And then gradually what exactly that service is and all the different intricacies of it will be revealed. So Krishna, he's trying to get Arjuna to do his duty now. That's a big part of it, and fight, because Arjuna didn't want to fight, because on the other side, oh, there's my dear grandfather and my teacher, and then all relatives and friends, and not only on my side, but the other side. So he had cold feet, so to speak. So that's why he's saying you should do your duty. Yoga stuck kuda karmani. Sidya, don't worry about the victory or defeat. That's not in your hands. The main thing is for you to do your duty for the right reason, which is basically why I'm asking you to do it. And in this way, be samal, be equipoised. That is a main ingredient of yoga, is to have the mind to go through all the things in life, but not to be distracted or disturbed from your meditation, as devotees, that, oh, I'm working for Krishna, remember his name, form, qualities, pastimes. So that's what Krishna is saying here. Equanimity here is called yoga. All right, let's go on. Durena yapadam karma buddhi yoga dhananjaya buddha sharanam anvicha kripana palahetavaha. Maya. O Dhanañjaya, keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service, and in that consciousness surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. Purport. One who has actually come to understand one's constitutional position as an eternal servitor of the Lord gives up all engagements save working in Krishna consciousness. As already explained, Buddhi Yoga means transcendental loving service to the Lord. Such devotional service is the right course of action for the living entity. Only misers desire to enjoy the fruit of their own work, just to be further entangled in material bondage. Except for work in Krishna consciousness, all activities are abominable because they continually bind the worker to the cycle of birth and death. One should therefore never desire to be the cause of work. Everything should be done in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of Krishna. Misers do not know how to utilize the assets of riches which they acquire by good fortune or by hard labor. One should spend all energies working in Krishna consciousness, and that will make one's life successful. Like misers, unfortunate persons do not employ their human energy in the service of the Lord. So this idea of miser, being a miser, giving up the life of a miser, we just think, well, I'm just doing the ordinary thing. I'm just working hard, trying to support my family and this and that, and go through school, and am I a miser? Well, you've got the incredibly valuable human form of life, and you're wasting it. You're acting in such a way, and especially in this age, where if you're not Krishna conscious, the chances are you're going to get off into some activity and consciousness. I'm telling you, the iPhone, or the cell phone, and they're not. No one ever calls them telephones anymore, right? I mean, that's from the 60s and 70s. It's not like I have my telephone in my hand. It's a phone, right? I don't even know the word. So, but it's a whole different world because again, on my walk, I try to say good morning to everyone, and a few souls I can see they're a little Hare Krishna. But I mean, most of the people are on their phones, and if they're not obviously on their phones, they got the little things in here that they really are still on their phones, right? So who's actually here? They're living like that, and they've done the tests. I mean, some of you may be aware there's a much higher rate of anxiety amongst young people now. They spend so much, and you remember what it's like. You're like 13, 14. You're just very sensitive, and especially the young girls. And it's such a culture. Bullying on the phone and exploitation and all this stuff. And when I joined the Hare Krishnas back in '73, even to call on a landline, was rare. They encourage you to call your mother, Dravida. She's probably wondering where you are. Okay, so I would call my parents once a month or something. But there's no question, no radios, no television, no nothing. There was a '73. That's kind of ancient history by now. But there was a big oil shock then. There was gasoline was very expensive. The OPEC started. They started, and it was suddenly hard to get the gasoline. And the only thing I knew, well, what's going on? No, we couldn't fill up the Sankirtan vans to send the book distributors out. They would travel different towns. But otherwise, I was, going out 3 hours every day, chanting Hare Krishna on the street. And I was blissful, So you're unplugged. You're much more unplugged. It's much harder to get unplugged now, especially if you have cell phone. Yes, David. Wait a minute. Mike. We have an audience out there.
When Srila Prabhupada says work done in Krishna consciousness, does it necessarily mean only work that's associated directly with the temple, like Sankirtan or what have you, or can it be theoretically any form of work that's done with a devotional mentality, whether one is a gas station attendant or an emergency room doctor, if one is offering that work as a form of, one has the discipline to offer that work as a form of worship, can it too be Krishna conscious?
Anyone who works outside knows that it's much harder to remember Krishna all the time, because you're dealing with people and things that are distracting you from Krishna. So that's the advantage of, living in the temple and being full-time. But still, we have to try to Krishnaize. I probably use the word Krishnaize, but they broke it up into Krishnaize. I like the Krishnaize. Krishnaize, to remember Krishna as much as possible. Those of you who have come to my classes know and heard it 100 times how I worked in a hospital before I joined. And, I was reading Bhagavad Gita. I wasn't reading Bhagavad Gita as it is first. I had a different, but it's still. And Krishna says in the 13th chapter, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Doshana Darshanam. This is one of the elements of knowledge, real knowledge, is to always remember the evils or the difficulties of birth, old age, disease, and death. I like to put them in that order because that's kind of the natural order: birth, old age, disease, and death. Again and again. So if you think about it, what's going on in the hospital? Birth, old age, disease, and death. You see, one of the things, material life, sense gratification, is designed, or it has the effect of helping you to forget those things, especially if you're young. I like to tell this story. I worked for 6 years in Miami to help complete the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada, some of you may know the history, he was able to produce one canto of the 12 canto Bhagavatams in India without hardly any money. It took him 4 years to produce those 3 books. And once he had them, he felt he had the ammunition. Now I have to go to America. So he had, part of his luggage was 1 or 2 cases of those books. He had some more sent. So, but due to his travels and also he suspended writing the Bhagavatam for 2 books. One was the Krishna book, which is the 10th canto, because he felt my disciples are chanting and dancing, they're doing all this stuff, but they don't really know many details about Krishna's pastimes. So he gave what is called a summary study, a running train. It was quite detailed of the Krishna book. When it came out, it just revolutionized the movement. But he had to suspend the production of the book in this format that you see here. The original Sanskrit, the transliteration, word by word translation and commentary, So, and then the CC, the Chaitanya Charitamrita. He was requested by one of his devotees that was traveling with him to translate the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and he took it up. So that was like, another big book. It came out in 17 volumes and everything. Anyway, the result was that he couldn't finish it. He was able to finish up to 13 chapters of the 10th canto. But there were 90 chapters in the 10th canto, and then about 31 or 32 in the 11th canto and 12 in the 12th canto. So so I somehow got the unbelievable opportunity to work with the main Sanskritist, who was Gopi Puranadhana Prabhu, and Ridhinanda Maharaj, who he was doing the main translation, for 6 years in Miami. And, okay, again, I'm forgetting what was the train. Krishnizing what book?
How young people think that they're not going to die.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the boardwalk. She remembers. She's been attending the classes. Okay. So just before I got there, they had, here we're close to the ocean. It's great. We could walk 2-3 blocks. That temple was literally on the ocean. It had a former hotel in Miami Beach. And I just opened my window, or just opened the blinds, and there was the ocean, literally about 100 yards away. So it's a big city for people visiting, and vacationing, especially that part of Miami. So I had learned that they had just built a boardwalk, I don't know, a couple of $1 million, so that you could walk up and down, and see the ocean. Okay. Now, Miami Beach is also a big retirement area, especially somehow New Yorkers end up retiring there. So you have a lot of people living in similar hotels, and they're kind of old, and they can get out. They're well enough to go for a walk. So they were basically built for them, so they could walk on the boardwalk rather than try to walk on the sand. So there was also a phenomenon where Brazilians would vacation in Miami, because in Brazil, when it's summer, it gets cold there, and it's warm in Miami. So they would come, and these were like wealthy young people, And so I noticed that they had put up a volleyball net on the beach, and there were mostly guys, but I think some ladies, maybe young in their early 20s, and they were playing volleyball. And then 15 and 20 feet away, there's these old people walking on, on the boardwalk, like that. So remembering what I thought when I was 18 is that, well, I'm glad I'm a young person. There's all these old persons, like they're constitutionally old, and I'm constitutionally young. I'll always be this age, and I'll always be that age. It's crazy, but that's the idea. Is that, well, boy, I'm glad I'm not old. Saying, oh, I'm going to be like that, and then I'll die. Then what will happen? If you start thinking like that, then you're going to go to the Hare Krishnas and find out about it. You got a book. I got this little book, Beyond Birth and Death. I wonder what that's all about. So anyway, it was very illustrative, because that kind of illusion is what covers, allows you to be oblivious to these things and just try to enjoy and do these things. So human life means it's responsible, as the verse I quoted. So what he's saying, the translation there, after a long time and many births, you have attained this human form of life, which is artadam, the only form of life which you can attain the arta. Arta is the ultimate value, which is liberation from this birth, old age, disease, and death, and return back home, back to Godhead. End the whole process. This is a whole artificial way of life, and artadam, but like all of them, it's anityam. It's not eternal, it's temporary, so the clock is ticking. So one has to be dhira, sober-minded and thoughtful. Then if you are, then what should you do? Turnam yateta. Strive without wasting another second. Turna means immediately. No, but as long as you're alive, as long as you're still in the body, strive for what? Then here's this word shreyas again. Shreyasa, for the ultimate good, not just the relatively ultimate good, but the ultimate good. Because after all, in all these other forms of life, in these other human lives, you've experienced all forms of vishaya, sense gratification, gross and subtle. Sarvatak said, and all these. So what's it gotten you? Another birth, another death, and all that. You haven't really progressed. So how does that striving manifest? It means, first of all, inquiring into the ultimate questions, as is explained at the beginning of Vedanta Sutra. Tato Brahma Jigyasa. Now that you're a human being, this is all implied in those 4 or 5 syllables. Now that you're a human being, you should inquire into Brahman. What is Brahman? Next sutra. Janmadyasya yataha. That which, from which or from whom everything has emanated. And then the adi is important. Adi means etc. So you have things coming into being, birth, and then maintenance, and finally destruction. That entity or that force, whatever it is, you have to inquire. Where did everything come from? Who am I? You see? What's my destiny? What does the future hold? That's the questions that human beings should ask. And by Prabhupada's incredible efforts all over the world, and these books have been translated into 100 languages by now, you can get those answers in these books. You can get those answers from the Bhagavad Gita as it is. And not just the answer, but then what to do about it. How can I realize it? Armed with that understanding that I'm an eternal spirit soul, constitutionally full of bliss and knowledge for eternity, how do I act? And so I can realize that and experience it, because I'm not experiencing it now in this body. Temporary, full of misery, and ignorant of so many things. So that the process of Krishna consciousness, which is what we're doing now by hearing from Krishna and Krishna's pure devotee, and trying to incorporate the principles in our lives. And it's so easy. Lord Chaitanya made it so easy. Okay, you don't have to bend this way and breathe this way and do all this. Just chant the mantra. Just take some time to chant the mantra. And you like a little drumming? I'm a drumming addict. My father was a drummer. When I was a kid, I was a smarty pants, so I finished my first grade, ABCs, and I'd be drumming on the desk. So then when I found the Hare Krishnas, they have that beautiful drum, But believe it or not, I never learned to play the drum. I beat it, but I'm doing a conga beat on there. Maybe you noticed. But the music and the dancing and all of that, and there's no prerequisite. You don't have to be a Brahmin. You don't have to do this. You don't have to pay any money. Just come and join. So that's the Namo Mahabodhanyaya. Lord Chaitanya, you are the most munificent, most generous. Why? Krishna Prema Badayata. You're giving Krishna Prema. Krishna doesn't really come to that point here. He says the ultimate instruction is surrender to me. Sarvadharma Purajaja Mame and Mame Kam Sharanam Bhaja. Aham Tvam, so I'll remove all of your sins. Don't worry. I put it into a little poem. Give up all other dharmas and surrender only unto me. Your sins will nullify, O Arjun, from anxiety. Be free. But Lord Chaitanya says, come, dance and chant, attain love of God, and don't worry about anything else. It'll all come naturally. So that's this movement. But the knowledge is important too. It's essential, because with that knowledge will come vairagya, will come natural distaste. Just like this is another little incident that only old timers like me. When did they first put those warnings on the cigarette packs? Maybe Kathy, I'm not insulting you or anything. Maybe you remember. I do. I think it was 1960. So that why would they do that? The warning, the product I'm trying to sell you will be hazardous to your health. They would do it because they're forced to do it. Because it was so the companies eventually did that. So this is we're Krishna is saying again and again, and material life is hazardous to your health. You're going to suffer old age, disease, and death in all different kinds of bodies. But your birthright is to be enjoying with me in the spiritual world for eternally. Come on, let's go. He's inviting. But here in the Bhagavad Gita, there's not much about the spiritual world. There's one or two, verses describing it. But this is a basic knowledge we need to know. But then there's the Srimad Bhagavatam, and then the postgraduate is the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Prabhupada gave us it all, so it's available. Oh my God! All right, let me give you a poem. Maybe we'll start the class at 7 o'clock. Get a little more time. Anyway, okay. So here's a verse about the holy name. Most of you haven't heard. This was written by Raghunath Das Goswami, one of the main disciples of Lord Chaitanya. Very incredible devotee. And so he writes about the Hare Krishna mantra. We're really chanting the names of Radha and Krishna here. So he says, Radheti nama navasundara siddhu mugdam, Krishneti nama marudapadaghara dugdam, Savakshanam sudabhiraga himena ramyam, Kritvata daiva pibame rasane chudarte. You heard this before. An excellent fresh nectar drink with endless subtle tastes. Such is the name of Radha, by whom all three worlds are graced. Condensed milk that is wonderfully delicious, thick and sweet. Such is the name of Krishna, in whom all attractions meet. Now mix these drinks, O thirsty tongue, and add the cooling, fragrant spice of love, a prize the wise will try to buy at any price. And then at every moment drink this beverage most fine, and make my heart supremely blissful, peaceful, and divine. Is that okay? Okay. So we'll adjourn now. You're welcome to come tomorrow. Taco Tuesday. Free tacos. Oh, Ekadashi tacos. They did it last Ekadashi. Last Ekadashi was also on a Tuesday. I mean, a month ago. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.